All right, man, it looks like you are live.
Okay, this is Matt Woodley with Preaching Today, Christianity Today. So, welcome to this part of our uh, webinar. If you're still here, you've stuck around. So, you've stuck around a long time. So, thanks for being here. Um, we wanted to talk about what it's like for pastoral staff as we relaunch, especially for preaching pastors, unique challenges, but there might be other issues on your heart and mind. I know that when we launch, every time we launch in the fall, we usually launch like late August. I'm in the Chicagoland area, so people kind of scatter for the summer and do their summer vacations. And I'm in a university college town. Wheaton College is nearby, so we got a lot of professors there. So people kind of scatter, and then they come back, and we regather and we regroup, and we do a big launch in August or early September. And so this year with COVID-19, that's going to be it's going to be a launch, but it's going to be sort of a launch, a wonky and wild and more intense launch because we're also launching into a new ministry year with COVID-19 still sort of not fully behind us, but hopefully we're moving forward. So it's going to be weird. And I don't know if Lawrence Aker is still with us. Lawrence, I don't know if, but I had Reverend Lawrence Aker the third with me here for part of this. So yeah, I just wanted to field any questions that you had. Um, Todd, are we still able to take questions? So one of the things we're thinking through is especially our sermon series. Usually in the sermon series, we would have something maybe to do with small groups, maybe something to do with mission, being on mission. I know we're going to do something with missional, but we've also been rethinking what is our sermon series going to look like this fall? How are we going to relaunch, given all the stuff that's going on in our nation? We got a number of factors coming together. Of course, we still got COVID-19 stuff. We got trying to reform and re-navigate and relaunch not only church life but Christian community and a sense of family, but then also how are we going to move forward with sort of this profound moment we're in American history where we're rethinking a lot of things and assumptions about what is America, what does it mean to be an American, what's our past. We're looking at issues of racial injustice. We're looking at issues of we're looking at issues of political conflict, and in some ways disillusionment. In our church, we're experiencing also, I think, the greatest generational divide. I was born in 1959, so I remember some of the generational divide in the early 70s. I was old enough to remember that over the Vietnam War. I think we're experiencing some of the greatest generational divide we've ever experienced since that's been almost 50 years now. With especially with issues on politics, issues on technology, but especially issues on racial injustice. So, wondering how you're all reacting to that, how you're all thinking about that, what you're all going to do about that. It would be great to hear what people are thinking and what people are asking about that. Um, so, just a second here. Um, okay, so I hear that you guys are getting sent to YouTube to watch there. Um, so does that mean that they can ask questions or not? Sorry, guys, we're dealing with some technical difficulties with this new platform we've been using and been having some problems with it. So nothing's really going according to plan today. Um, so I can
People
tell
are,
you,
Matt, people are starting to move over to YouTube, and there is a chat window there, and people are starting to just come in. So give them just a minute or two.
And then will you be putting the questions into the doc, Todd?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. And is Lawrence here?
Does not look like it.
Okay. Hey, if you've just joined us, thanks for sticking with us, and we apologize for the technical difficulties. We've been trying to use multiple formats for this experience, and nothing's gone according to plan. But if you're here, say hi in the chat, and just let us know that you're here. Just say hi and let us know who you are and where you're from. That would be great, just to know that people are tuning in.
Hello, Matt.
Hey, Kevin.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
I decided that since we're having these technical difficulties, I would come on so that I could help interview you about some of the issues that we're seeing and dealing with, including today, it seems like.
Is it just me and you, or are others on the call here?
Well, it's just me and you on the call, but we'll hopefully we'll see some things on the chat here momentarily on YouTube. We're trying to figure out exactly what happened, and we're not clear. So
Sure.
We've had a few issues here today, and so I hope that that hopefully we can get some a little bit going on here on what we had intended to do, which was sort of this pastoral perspectives approach of how do you kind of lead from the front when there isn't a front.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, but I wanted to, I know we had a lot of technical issues, but I wanted to know what was your biggest takeaway from the panel.
Yeah, it was a great panel. Love the conversation. You know, I'm in a great role right now because I'm not the senior pastor and I'm not the executive pastor, so I don't have to like lead a lot of these decisions, but I do give wisdom and support. I mean, I've been in both. I haven't been an executive pastor, but I've been a senior pastor. So my main gig right now is preaching and mission. So I'm trying to think of everything through that, but I don't have to necessarily make the logistical decisions, you know. I love the balance. I just thought there was a lot of really creative ideas about how to be involved in people's lives, and sort of how to, like Pastor Lawrence was talking about, high tech, high touch, how to touch people's lives. So anyway, I thought there was a lot of really good practical steps to take. So really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I was very glad we were recording, so I didn't have to scramble and take notes on
Yeah.
all of the important stuff. I can go back later and look at it again, and I will. One of the things that I've been wondering from your perspective as a pastor of preaching,
Yeah.
and thinking about how have you found that you've needed to adapt beyond some of the okay, I'm preaching to an empty room kinds of things.
Yeah. Right.
How has that adaptation process worked for you?
Um, Sometimes, it's funny. Sometimes it's easier and then sometimes it's harder. Last Sunday, I preached. I thought I was kind of really getting this down, and I don't know if other preachers are experiencing this. I'll just share my own personal experience since that's what you're asking me about,
Yeah,
Kevin. So,
absolutely.
yeah. So I thought I was getting really comfortable with it, and then this last Sunday I preached in one of our church plants, which is it's a smaller, it's maybe like 100 people sort of watching it. It didn't really matter. It doesn't really matter how many people are tuning in, but for some reason I felt really out of sorts, and I felt like it was kind of like awkward all over again, and so. And I thought I had it nailed down and nice and tidy, but just kind of like, I don't know if I was just missing people, and I probably, to them, they probably didn't notice, but because I really don't think I did anything different, but I just felt more awkward in my own psyche or soul, So yeah, it's just a constant. I think it's a constant adaptation thing, and I feel like I'm starting to miss people more. It's kind of like, okay, we can do this. I'll just talk to the camera, but now I'm starting to miss that embodied bodies, the
Yeah.
bodies out there and the faces and the people I know and the people I love, and I know their name and they know me, and get to meet new people. And so, yeah, I'm starting to miss that more and more. I think I'm starting to long for that more and more. I think the grieving is kind of, the aching for that is coming back again.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I think that's one of the things that, I come from a Baptist background in sort of the non-denominational church world. And so when you have that background, you tend to not think as much about the embodied aspects as a necessary aspect. You're like, well, we can do this stuff, however, but you realize in a situation like this just how important it is. And my church has started to slowly do a few things on Sunday evenings, and things in the parking lot. And the reaction of people, I just needed to be around my church family.
Yeah.
That's a really big deal
Yeah.
for people. And so finding ways to kind of incorporate that, um, is I think one of those things that it's tricky, and I think everybody's trying to figure it out right now.
Yeah.
But it's an important aspect of what churches do and how churches function.
Right. Yeah. Kevin, so somebody asked me, looks like a question was asked, was my sort of awkwardness was related to the message in any way?
Mm.
That's a good question. I really don't think it was. I felt it was kind of an odd Bible passage, not odd, like it's just a very underpreached passage. It was Jeremiah 10. So how many people know right off the top of your head what Jeremiah 10 is about? Do you know, Kevin? Because I didn't.
No, not right off the top of my head. I couldn't tell you.
I didn't either. But it's about idolatry, and it's about he says your idols are like a scarecrow in a cucumber patch. They fasten it down and they carry it around, and it does not speak. And then so it's kind of a polemic against idolatry, and then it's embedded in this polemic is a song of praise to the living God, the living and true God. So it's kind of a psalm sort of in the middle of it. So it was kind of a little bit of a hard text to preach, a little different, off the beaten track. But I really don't think that was it. I think it's just maybe it's because it could have been because I was in a different setting. I was not in my home church. So now I'm not in my home church. I'm in a church plant where I've never been in the building before. The camera was different. The crew was different. And so maybe that was just like too much change and difference, so that could have been it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And it just is, I think everybody is trying to figure out how do we communicate well? How do we make things work through? So how do you lead from the front? And I saw that I think through when I've been able to preach at the various campuses of my church, I know that when I go out west to the little country church part, it's going to be different than when I am in the more urban multi-ethnic congregation that's in the town of Aurora. So those context matters, right?
Oh yeah, totally, yeah.
And so that's going to be, I'm sure that has to impact what you're doing.
Yeah. Just a little side note. So the last 2 times I've preached, I've tried to cut. I've finally got to the point where I'm going to cut the sermon down. We normally preach about 27 to 30 minutes in our context because we have the Lord's Supper every Sunday. And so I've been trying to get to 22 minutes. Now, some of my friends are going 16. Some of them aren't changing at all. I mean, it just depends on your context, but I was really trying to hit 22 minutes. I hit the last sermon I preached, the sermon before this one, I hit 23 minutes. So this one was probably, I didn't get 25 minutes. But anyway, I'm also trying to I'm trying to engage more with children, that are watching. It's like, hey, if you got kids that are watching, I want to at least engage you for at least 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, keep you with me. And so I'm basically doing like a children's sermon at the beginning, which is actually an adult prop, a prop for adults. So last 2 Sundays ago, I did Jeremiah on a broken cistern. So I used a leaky cup, and I was trying to get a drink out of a leaky cup, and they just kept leaking out, and there was nothing left. And this time I ordered a $7 scarecrow from Amazon. So I said, I just wanted to let you know I'd made the drive up here with my best friend Bob, and I just want to introduce Bob. And here's Bob. Here's my friend Bob. So, and then I talked about
fantastic.
I talked about how I'm not serious, but if I was serious, you might be saying, Matt, you can do better. You can have real friends. You can have friends that actually talk to you. So, and I was saying that's what idolatry is. God says you can do better. You can do better than your idols. You can have the real God.
I think that's a fantastic thing. I had a homiletics professor way back in the day who used to say that he did children's sermons regularly because he had things he wanted to teach the adults that they wouldn't listen to unless he talked to the kids. So I think but I think that's also a fantastic way that maybe we need to start thinking more about as we move into whatever the new normal is. I almost don't like that phrase, but to think, how are we engaging everybody in the congregation?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I also find, Kevin, so I had this weird thing going on inside of me. I feel like I'm regressing. John Ortberg once in the webinar we did earlier, he talks about sermon shame. This just that you feel shame after you preach. Like, I didn't do this well enough. I screwed it up, or I did this wrong, or and it's not like self-improvement kind of thing. It's not like an honest critique. It's more like you're really being brutal on yourself out of a unholy shame. And I find that kind of creeping back into my life. So I was talking to a mentor about it, just trying to figure out, why is that sort of creeping back into my life more? And I'm really not sure why, actually, but well, maybe this is part of it. So we had an online forum about racial issues, and our senior pastor is also the bishop of our diocese. He just started by saying, none of us are really at our best right now. We are just not at our best. He said, I'm not at my best. We're not dealing with conflict that well. We're just a little on edge. And it was like, yeah, I'm not at my best. I'm at my best when I'm with people. I'm at my best when I can talk face to face with people. There's some isolation going on. There's some fear, there's some uncertainty. So just to admit, we're not at our best right now. And then to bring that to the Lord and just say, okay, Lord, take my not at my bestness right now and use it for your glory. The best way you can do it right now. That's been helpful to me, Kevin.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I think, one of the things that is probably more crucial now than maybe we've ever realized is just how important transparency is in from leadership down, to say, you know what, your leaders are human too.
Yeah.
And we are, the whole cultural moment that we're in right now, one of the things that strikes me is, culturally, we seem to want to categorize people as they're all good or they're all bad.
Yeah.
And nobody is that, right?
Right.
Everybody is both created in the image of God and fallen.
Right.
And so both of those things are going to be at play in our lives. And I think when leaders can express that fact, that goes a long way towards helping those of us who aren't maybe up in front or making the decisions to give grace, to say, okay, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
And it's far easier for me as the person in the pew to follow leaders when I see that they are struggling as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I feel it very strongly, just the permission to stumble as we move forward in this. I don't know if this is a question for me or if this is a question maybe to throw out there, but so what challenges have you hit as you've reopened at whatever stage your church is at? I don't know if anybody has some challenges out there. I know for us, we're in Illinois, which has been, it was a little confusing. You know this, right, Kevin? I mean, the governor's thing it was really confusing at first, because it's like, I think he's saying that we're not going to go over 50 until whenever, which could be a year or a year and a half, or who knows.
Yeah.
And so there was a bunch of pastors that actually submitted a letter to him. I don't know if you know about that.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then he basically said, well, that's not really what I meant. And I guess they just had a phone call with him, which actually went really well. And he's just wants people to move really slowly. So I think one of the challenges is one of the biggest challenges for us is we really want to regather. We're a sacramental church. We believe that we talk about word and sacrament. So we believe something happens in the preached word of God publicly that you cannot get in your quiet time. We believe something happens in the Lord's Supper that you cannot get in your personal relationship with Jesus. So there's something. So without going into all of that, but
Sure.
so we really, really want to meet. But we want to be safe, and we want to respect people who have underlying conditions, and we want to respect our neighborhood that we're in. And so we don't want to be a super spreader,
Sure. Yeah.
We don't want a 100-person choir practicing in a small unventilated room, So at what point, I think that's the biggest challenge, is how do we gather people and then move towards this. Move towards this. We want to be together, but do it in a way that's safe. I think that's the biggest challenge we're looking at right now.
Yeah, that makes that's I think exactly what our church has been dealing with, and we've tried to look through it from a perspective of how do we take into consideration safety? How do we take into consideration the law? How do we take into consideration what does Scripture tell us that we need to be doing as the church, and how do we promote unity as a body when not everyone is going to agree?
Yeah,
And
right.
and that's been the one of the trickier things. But I think that's what I've seen, and because I'm not on the leadership team. I have
Yeah.
been an elder at my church in the past. I'm not right at this moment, and I have done a lot of sort of relief preaching over time, which I'm not doing right now because of the way that it's working. But I'm pretty close with several of the guys that are on staff at the church, and what I'm seeing is a lot of the staff guys. They're going constantly. They're working and they're working and working, and there's more, not less, to do because of the change.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that came up was about soul care, and how do you, as the guy on staff, how are you making sure that you are taking care of that aspect of leading as a pastor?
That's a really good question. I just told a friend this week, I feel like so in my pastoral ministry right now, more than at any other time in my life, and this is, I think, year 27. So I've been doing this for a while, more than any other year. I feel like there are things that I'm doing that are so fewer things that are pouring energy and life into me, and more things that are sucking life out of me, So less input, more output,
Yeah.
And I feel like, after it's been a pretty intense month, and I picked up an extra sermon this last week that I didn't know I was going to do. And so that was at the church plant. That just like pushed me over the edge. And so I realized I just need to take some extra time off this week and go take a really slow week.
Fair enough.
I'm doing a really slow week. And I'm just spending a little more. I just got to trying to get outside more, trying to pray more, take a nap this afternoon. It's not vacation time. It's just sort of it's a catch-up time. And paying attention to that too. Paying attention to like what's going on in my body, what's going on in my soul.
I totally understand that. I felt like the entire world seems so heavy right now. I was thinking about this last night because I've been thinking about, whether it comes to COVID, when it comes to the racial issues that are going on in our country right now, the political divides, and it seems like every place you turn right now, there is stress.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stress, and I'm not even making judgments about that. I think these are like real issues we have to take into consideration and pay attention to, and I'm trying to pay attention to more than I've ever done before. But at some point you go, okay, I need to stop for a second and take a breath and do something, clear my mind, pray, do something totally
Right.
unrelated to this, so that I can reset and I can actually be of value to my
Yeah.
family, to the church that I'm serving, and to the community at large.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody asked, is your church dividing up the extra work and giving each other breaks? Yeah, fortunately. I mean, I've been on a staff where I was a solo pastor of a church of less than 100. I've been on a staff of about 250. I've been on a staff of 400. I was a senior pastor of the church of 400. Now I'm not senior pastor of a church of about 1,200. So I've been in a lot of different contexts. And yes, so right now we spend a lot of time planning our vacations. So it's like, these pastors are out of town, church people. This pastor's in charge, So we've tried to communicate very well to the congregation. This pastor's unavailable. This pastor's available, And so we're trying to get 2 solid weeks each. And I would say if you're at a solo church, man, you got to get that. You got to get that this summer. You talk to your board, whatever you got for your leadership team, and just say, me and my family, we got to get away for 2 solid weeks. And how can we work this out? And that was one thing I just was not assertive enough when I was a younger pastor, just saying, I got to protect my family. I got to get the family time, and I can't just, I need to get away. So anyway, I would really encourage you. There's a way to do it, and there's creative ways to do it. So I would really fight for that, and it's a good. Your church will be blessed by it too. They'll survive. They'll
Yeah,
survive
well,
without you.
I would say, as the person who's a layperson in this right now, I think this is a time for people, the lay people in the church, to step up and
Yeah,
to really say, okay, we're not paying the pastor to do the ministry. We're supposed to be doing the ministry, and how do we help serve at
yeah,
this point? I really think that's important, and I actually think that will really help in the spiritual growth of those people, which is what we're supposed to be doing anyway.
yes,
So
right,
I think
yeah.
asking for that time off is maybe good for everybody.
Well, and you're gonna have a lot of everybody's gonna have a lot of challenges this fall when we all come back together. There's gonna be more anxiety. There's gonna be more fear. There's gonna be more political divide in our country. There's gonna be more racial misunderstanding and more racial furor. And so, yeah, the need for soul care is greater than ever. And so, get some rest now. And then I would just say, I think we're going to sign off in a couple minutes here,
Yeah.
Kevin. But I think I would just say, spend some time thinking about, really praying about, what do I want to really preach into this summer. So I think we're gonna focus on the beauty of the life of the church, on mission together. And so, rather than focus on what's wrong, what's broken, let's look at what the Bible, this beautiful vision. And there's a new book out by University Press called The Beautiful Community, written by a Black pastor from Washington, D.C. Great little book. That's inspiring some thoughts for me on what is this beautiful community we're supposed to be. And then some practical steps on how we can get there this fall. So, but just, I'm not saying you have to do that, but just think and pray about how you want to relaunch in this, reboot your preaching in this crazy time we're in.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thought. I think that we're recognizing at this moment both how important preaching is to what the church does, and that it doesn't necessarily have to be what we've always thought it was.
Yeah,
And
right.
so I think that's a good thought for all of us who preach to think through, as we move into the summer and into the fall. How do we need to be reevaluating what we're doing? Because at the end of the day, if we're communicating God's word, it's not about maybe the form or the function that we're all familiar with or what we think we're supposed to do, as it is, this is God's word, and how are we communicating that well? And maybe the circumstances say we've got to shift the way that we've done it, and maybe we
Yeah.
can learn from people that are outside of our traditions or our backgrounds, and pick up things that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, that's good. Well, thanks for joining us here. If you've
Yeah.
stuck with us, if you made it through all that wait and lag time and you stuck with us, I wish we could give you a gold star, or I wish we could give you a hug, but we can't give you a hug for multiple reasons. So anyway, but give you an emotional hug. But anyway, thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate the time and the thought.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Great to see you. Hey.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay, bye.